Hi, I'm Lucas,
And I'm Brian.
and this is the Quacks Podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome.
Here with Brian.
Hello.
How's it going, Brian?
It's going all right.
Sweet, man.
Alive and upright.
Good. You just asked me how I'm doing. I'm doing pretty good. Didn't sleep great last night, which always makes the day a little bit harder. You know, the weird thing, though, now about sleep for me is I can not get sleep and I'll feel fine all day, but I just know that I'm like not fine.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like more annoying than it is actually a problem for me,
Right.
which is kind of weird.
Yes. I never sleep well, so it's always different. Look at, there I am complaining again, but that's the truth. I don't sleep very good.
Yeah.
And I'm right there with you. I didn't get much last night, but
All right. Well, we'll try and raise the energy. It'll
we're
be a
going
good time.
to, dude. Or we do it. Why don't we do this one on dreams? Because I'm in a dreamlike state.
Okay. I don't have anything on dreams. What do you think of dreams?
Oh, only what Van Halen says in the song. Baby, dry your eyes, save all the tears you've cried, and that's what dreams are made of. And that's me on any given evening.
Did you hear Van Halen's got cancer?
Is that true?
Yeah.
He's got it back again?
I don't know. I read something that he was flying in for treatment for some type of cancer again. Nothing confirmed.
Oh,
but
man. Well, he had cancer, I don't know, 10 years ago or more. And I know he kicked it. But something tells me that guy's lifestyle hasn't changed all that much.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know Mr. Van Halen. I wish him the best because I grew up loving those guys. So
Yeah.
first concert I ever went to.
Yeah, you know who I'm going to go see this weekend on Wednesday night?
Who?
REO Speedwagon
Wow.
at the Mesa Amphitheater.
Oh, that's right. I saw them advertised.
Yeah. I'm going to go
That's-
check it out. My girlfriend got tickets for me for my birthday.
That is so great, man. There's a couple songs by them that I love them. So
I had that thing where over time I would hear a song and be like, oh, this is a great song. And then like a couple years later, I'd hear a different song. Be like, man, this is a great song. And then just this last year, I listened to like the greatest hits from REO Speedwagon, and it was all these good songs.
Great
And
album.
I'm like, wow, they've done a lot of good stuff. It's kind of crazy.
Roll with the Changes is like one of my.
Oh, it's
dude,
so good.
It's great.
Dude, whenever I have a few drinks, I put on Roll with the Changes, and I'm just like, yes, roll with the changes.
Dude, I will
it's
crank
so
that
good.
so loud. And the way that it starts off and with the piano, it's so rollicking and just, it would be impossible to frown through Roll with the Changes, I think.
And then the whole like last 4 minutes of the song is just like him soloing, you know?
Oh,
I mean,
it's so
all the
good.
lyrics end after about 2 minutes, and it's just, music after.
As
Yeah,
soon
it's a
as
good
you are
song.
ready, more than I am willing. Oh, great. Good guys.
Cool, man. Cool. So this week, we mentioned it last week, we're going to do systemic enzymes.
Yes.
Yeah, did you have a chance to try any?
I've tried them on and off, but I did have a little bit of a stomach issue last week, so it wasn't a time to introduce some
Okay.
of that stuff. But I had planned on doing it and sharing more with it. But
Yeah.
I am going to do it, and I'm just trying to decide which one. Maybe you can help me tonight when we're talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, we're mostly going to talk about Wobenzyme, but
Okay.
because that's where a lot of the research is.
Yeah.
That's the one that's been out forever.
Very popular.
But, I mean, maybe you have some idea of what people like at the store that you could share with at the end.
Totally.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we mentioned last time we're going to talk about systemic enzymes. These are an awesome tool to have in your medicine cabinet, especially to replace things like Tylenol, ibuprofen, Aleve, and other non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, which we will be referring to as NSAIDs for...
Which we talked about last week.
Yes, which we talked about last week. The Europeans are all over this stuff. They're very popular over in Europe, and I think we just kind of need to get on board in America, widely speaking.
Yes.
The natural world knows about them, but anyway, we kind of summarized them a little bit last time, but let's outline what these enzymes are really fully for this
Yeah.
week.
All
So
for it.
first we need to explain what an enzyme is. An enzyme is a protein that catalyzes a specific chemical reaction within the body. So inside your body, you have tens of thousands of different enzymes causing different chemical reactions all the time. So they speed up these chemical reactions. Now, enzymes, they're made all over your body as well, like in your salivary glands, when you chew carbohydrates, your pancreas, your intestines, just a lot of different places, a lot of different cells. Now, our bodies make enzymes, but sometimes people decide to take extra enzymes for various reasons that we will get into. So when you're taking a digestive enzyme, for example, you're taking the enzymes that help break down carbs, fats, and proteins into digestible parts. So amylase is an enzyme that breaks down carbohydrates, protease breaks down protein, and lipase breaks down fats. And there's a lot more enzymes out there that help break down fibers and other things that you eat.
Right.
Yeah. Now, back in the 1950s, two doctors, one named Dr. Max Wolf and the other named Dr. Helen Bennett, made an enzyme blend that they thought would help with osteoarthritis. This is like a new use.
Yeah.
They used plant and pancreatic enzymes, and they encapsulated them in a way where they would bypass your digestion and be absorbed through your intestine into your bloodstream. Wow. At least that was the theory.
Right.
They're very empiric doctors, so they would try these enzymes out and see what they did. Basically, they practice in a way, kind of after our own hearts here on Quacks. They just experimented with these enzymes to see what would happen and what they would work against.
That's probably the best way to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little not rigorous because it's not like a double-blind placebo where you isolate the different factors and you can say, okay, this does this. But it's more just like what we're doing. Like, okay, I'm just going to try this. I'm going to see what happens.
Okay.
The blend they came up with was a combination of their two names, Woe, Ben, Zyme. That's where the name came from.
Oh, that's how that happened, huh?
Yeah, that's how that happened. And so the things they found these enzymes useful for were the following conditions. So reduced swelling and inflammation, that's the big one. Enhanced immune function, improved circulation, less pain, more rapid recovery from traumatic injury, minimal scar formation, that's another big one, prevention of serious consequences of injury, and management of rheumatic diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis. Now, this Wobenzyme product introduced a new therapy called systemic or a how do you say it?
Proteolytic?
Yeah, proteolytic enzyme therapy. This was kind of this new thing. So since then, many different systemic enzyme formulas have come out with, different tweaks to the original formula or different types of enzymes used, like serrapeptase or nattokinase. I think we're mostly going to talk about Wobenzyme, like I mentioned, just because that's where all the research is.
That's where we should do it.
Yeah, but there's some controversial research on serrapeptase that we'll talk about, I think, at the end. So originally, Wobenzyme was used for a limited number of conditions, but because it theoretically lowers inflammation, and inflammation is associated with many, many different conditions, the uses for it are practically unlimited, theoretically. An example of this actually comes from back in my early days when I first started getting into health experimentation. I read this crazy guy who actually has a clinic down in Patagonia named Dr. Gabriel Cousins, and he wrote this book claiming that he had cured several type 1 diabetics of type 1 diabetes. This was crazy to me, but I decided, I might as well try his cure because no one else was crazy enough to write that down.
I've been to that clinic.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have.
What?
I didn't get treated, but I went down there because my ex-wife was she went to school for, she was aromatherapy, herbology. So we went down to Patagonia and actually went to the clinic.
Really? Did you get to meet this guy?
I did not, but it was very cool setting, and I know a lot about him. But it's amazing.
That's totally
you just brought him up.
surprising.
Yeah.
What did you go down to the clinic for? Just to check it out, or?
Yeah, I think we'd gone down for the Gem Show in Tucson.
Yep.
And then she was she's like, I've always wanted to go out to Patagonia to see Dr. Cousins' clinic. And she said it just like that. Like you wouldn't even know she's sitting right next to me. But she, actually she has the voice of a child. So like she'll answer the phone and then they'll ask to talk to her mother, and then she'll hand it to my daughter. But yeah, no, it was great. And Patagonia, wow, what a hidden gem that is.
I know, right?
But no, please get into it, because that's great that you just brought him up. That brought me back.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I didn't expect you to have any personal experience with that guy at all.
Yeah.
So anyway, his regimen for curing type 1 diabetes was fasting for many days on end, combined with taking massive amounts of systemic enzymes. The enzymes were, I guess this was the theory, they were supposed to dissolve the scar tissue that had built up in the pancreas and was preventing the beta cells there from producing insulin. And it obviously didn't work. In fact, I remember the enzymes doing basically nothing at all.
Oh, boy.
I didn't feel anything, no magical diabetes cure, nothing. But it's just an example, I guess, of the wide range of issues that people are trying to make these enzymes work for.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, the question is, what do these enzymes actually work for, right? And before we go into that, there is one myth out there around digestive enzymes and enzymes in general, and you've probably heard of this, that I want to tackle. And I've read it from multiple sources, and I remember actually hearing about it back when I was working in the health food store. And that is that this myth that we only have a limited number of enzymes in our body, and once we run out, we start to have, digestive problems, inflammation, scarring problems. And the solution to this is taking digestive enzymes or systemic enzymes, which will help our body kind of hang on to our limited supply for longer, giving us better health as we age. Have you ever heard of this?
I had not. So it's basically a retention method for enzymes, for our own enzymes?
Yeah. And I haven't been able to find a single reliable source for this factoid. It makes no sense to me. I can see like a case of maybe as you get older, maybe you lose like pancreatic function, or maybe being malnourished, you don't have the basic building blocks to make enzymes. But this idea that you kind of have this giant store of enzymes in your body, it's like this retirement account that, if you draw too much on, you're going to go bankrupt.
That sounds ludicrous that we have a storage of enzymes.
I'm so surprised you've never heard that, because I've heard people at Healthy Habit talk about this probably in the last year. And I swear you were around.
No, without any background whatsoever, I would refute that claim probably, just on the basis of being devil's advocate, because it sounds so ludicrous.
Yeah. Well, it is. I don't know. I could be wrong. If there is a person out there who knows contrary to me, please let me know. Point me in the right direction so I could learn more. But it just seems ridiculous, especially when you dig into how the body works, and it's like an enzyme making machine. You're always making enzymes.
How enzymes work. There's a bank of enzymes that are still working throughout your entire life, like brain cells. You only get a finite amount.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, that myth is busted.
We've laid that to
rest. Now, so what are these enzymes good for, right? Now, from the papers and reviews I've read in researching these, I would say that like the above list that those empirical doctors found, meaning the ones they just observed, it's a pretty right on what they do.
Okay.
The newer uses like type 1 diabetes, obviously, and cancer, and it gets a little shaky in what's out there. So there was a study out of Germany in 2015 looking at osteoarthritis of the knee. That was published in a journal called Arthritis. It was a good quality, double-blind, placebo-controlled study. About 150 people over 12 weeks. They were split into 3 groups. One group received Wobenzyme. Another received an NSAID called diclofenac, and the other got placebo. Wobenzyme matched diclofenac in improvement of pain scores. Both were stronger than placebo. However, diclofenac had something like 15% adverse reactions, where Wobenzyme had closer to what the placebo was, which was around 9%. So
the placebo even had 9%?
Yeah, that's
that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean that's why they do these double-blind studies. Is sometimes you find these, this happens all the time. And so I was just reading this article about antidepressants, and these pharmaceutical companies, basically they cherry picked all of the evidence. So they did all these studies, and all of these studies showed these SSRIs were not beating placebo as far as antidepressant scores, but some did. And so they just took those and used that as evidence.
Okay.
But in these studies, placebos, a lot of times were antidepressant. People felt better. And so, it's just something about either depression where people tend to get out of it on their own, or it's something about, doing some kind of ritualized or discipline of taking a pill, and they feel like maybe it's helping them,
I think that is such a big boost for the mindset, ironically, that we are creating so much of this in our own minds, or
Totally.
That's amazing to me. I love hearing that.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
So I like this study because it is on humans. It's double blind. It's randomized, and it kind of showed what a lot of people have anecdotally talked about for a while with Wobenzyme and with these systemic enzymes, which is that these systemic enzymes reduce pain like a regular over-the-counter painkiller, but they don't have some of the same side effects that those painkillers can have. And that's a claim that I have seen constantly from the marketing of the enzymes, from the feedback that people are giving. And so this study just kind of shows that that's pretty right on.
That's amazing.
Yeah. There's other studies as well looking at pain from exhaustive exercise, along with TMJ. That's the problem with people have with their jaw. There's another double-blind study on problems that people develop after getting blood clots. And all these studies, although usually they're at 100 people or less, so they're a little small. They're all positive for Wobenzyme against either a placebo or another NSAID.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, Mayo Clinic had a great write-up on systemic enzymes that came out in 2014, and I've included the link, and it's basically a letter to doctors on how to counsel their patients who are taking systemic enzymes therapy. So I really thought this was cool. They go through each claim about systemic enzymes like pain, muscle soreness in athletes, osteoarthritis, cancer, and the paper is generally supportive, and it says that there is positive evidence for systemic enzyme therapy use in all of these conditions.
Wow.
This is from the Mayo Clinic. Now, the studies they reference are relatively small, something like 20 people or less, and they remark on this by saying more evidence is needed, and they also point out that adverse reactions are very low. And the only type of person or patient who should not be given systemic enzymes would be children with cystic fibrosis. I guess they can have some kind of weird, rare reaction to them.
Wow. Okay. Why? Why? I'm like, why? Tell me.
I don't know. Something about breaking up phlegm and cystic fibrosis with kids is so weird. So
I'm not even familiar how that works in the body, the cystic fibrosis, but that's for another episode.
Yeah. It's just weird what they can and can't have, and I mean it's a deadly. I don't know how deadly it is these days, but it was pretty deadly when I was growing up and I learned about it.
It's not good.
The cool thing also about this paper is if you are dealing with some type of illness and you have a doctor treating you and that doctor's negative on systemic enzymes, you could actually bring this paper to them and they'd probably change their tune, which is pretty neat.
I love seeing that.
Yeah. And I also want to mention that contrary to some of what was written about these systemic enzymes back in the late 2000s, there is evidence that these enzymes make their way into your bloodstream in both animals and humans, and the Mayo paper mentions that as well.
Cool.
Now we get to cancer, which is a little bit more interesting of a story. So there's this doctor named Dr. Nicholas Gonzalez. Have you ever heard of him?
I have not heard of that one.
So he died in 2015 from a random heart attack out of nowhere, I guess. But for years, he had this Gonzalez protocol, which he named after himself. So the Gonzalez protocol. And he started practicing in 1987, and he was treating people with cancer with his protocol, which was a combination of massive amounts of these systemic enzymes, coffee enemas, and other vitamin and nutritional, therapies and counseling and that kind of thing. All right. Now, for years, he claimed amazing results, especially with really hard to treat cancers like pancreatic cancer. He gained quite a following. He wrote books, did lectures, did the tour, all talking about the benefits of his protocol, right?
Yes.
Well, in 1999, all his talk really paid off, and the NIH decided to do a study on what he was doing.
Okay.
They said, let's find out if this actually works, right? And so they did the Gonzalez protocol versus chemotherapy in people with pancreatic cancer. Now, these people were most likely going to die as their cancers were very aggressive. Mm-hmm. So the study was basically just looking at who would live the longest out of the two groups.
Okay.
It's kind of messed up when you think about it.
Yeah. Oy.
Now, at first they wanted to do a normal double-blind study, but the people who were volunteering did not want to be put into the chemotherapy group. They wanted the Gonzalez protocol because they believed in it so much.
Yeah, who's going to go for the chemo? I mean,
right?
You can just do that anyways.
That's right. They wanted the Gonzalez. So they actually set it up as an observational study comparing two groups. So they took all these volunteers with pancreatic cancer, gave them the Gonzalez, and then they compared it to a chemotherapy group.
Okay.
Well, that study didn't go so well. So they found that the people doing the Gonzalez protocol died much faster compared to the chemotherapy group.
Are you kidding me?
Not at all. The chemo group people lived about 3 times as long as the Gonzalez group.
No, I would have been Team Gonzo all the way. You tricker.
I know, right?
It's coffee. I mean, what else? And systemic enzymes. That's so crazy.
Yeah. And you have to remember this is pancreatic cancer. This is an aggressive killer cancer. I think, I don't know how many people it was on, but one person was alive after 5 years in the chemo group. I mean, it wasn't great.
It's not good.
Yeah, it's not good. But the Gonzalez group died a lot quicker. So Gonzalez was probably,
oh man,
he was a bit of a quack, and not in the cool, empirical, positive sense that we are here.
Yeah. He was the kind you often think of when you hear the word quack.
Quack. I mean, maybe not. I watched some of his videos when I was doing research on this, and he seems passionate and authentic, and he really believed in what he was doing for people. But that study was bad. I mean, I wonder about the guy because he continued to practice after that study came out. So
I
I'd
was
want to
already
do.
fostering my conspiracy theories. You're going to be like, the Gonzalez method, every single one of them is still alive today, and then mysteriously he died of a heart attack.
That's right.
That's what I thought you were going with.
Yeah, no. I'd want to do more research
Shame.
to find out if there was something like that. Like, did they mess with the study or something?
Yes.
Or maybe he's just a sociopath. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows?
We'll never know now.
Yeah, I mean, we might be able to suss it out by doing more research, but I just didn't have the time to really get into
about
that.
him being a sociopath. He's gone.
Yeah,
I guess you could still talk to the kids.
I mean, if you keep practicing after a big study like that happens, there's something up with you. There's something wrong with your moral compass.
Right.
If you're
unless he believed that they had messed with the numbers.
Unless he thought that they sabotaged him or something. Before that, it's kind of understandable, right? Before the study is in, it's kind of like, okay, he's seeing people be healed by this. Maybe it doesn't work on everybody, but after that, you gotta maybe rethink your life a little bit.
At least rethink the Gonzalez method or protocol.
So all of that is to say, I don't think systemic enzymes are the panacea for cancer treatment.
Okay.
Besides, the enzymes are used so frequently in Germany that if they really made a dent in cancer as a treatment, we would probably know by now with some strong studies.
I would think so.
Yeah, and it's not to say that using systemic enzymes can't be useful in cancer. It could be maybe pain and inflammation. It could be great for that. But just as a standalone therapy, it's probably not a good idea.
Okay.
All right. Now, the last point I want to make here is about serrapeptase, which also has some controversial results. Serrapeptase is an enzyme that comes from silkworms, and the worms use it to dissolve tissues. And so researchers had this kind of bright idea that it would help dissolve fibrin and scar tissue in humans. So a Japanese study, they sold it for that purpose for many years, but a double-blind study in 2011 found that it offered no benefit over placebo, so they pulled it from the market. However, since then, further studies have shown it does have some uses. There is a study in dentistry when they're, I guess, extracting molars, showing a reduction in swelling and inflammation, I believe, something along those lines. All that is to say, serrapeptase is still included in a lot of systemic enzyme blends, and it probably does something, although it's unclear exactly what that is. I've seen accounts online claiming it is the strongest enzyme for getting rid of scar tissue. So there seems to be like extreme opinions on it. I don't know. Have you heard of anything or seen anything like that in the store?
Not really.
Okay.
No, I haven't. I don't want to say something that's not fruitful.
Okay. All in all, systemic enzyme therapy is pretty awesome. It can replace NSAIDs, which kill thousands of people a year and hospitalize hundreds of thousands. It reduces pain, swelling. It will increase athletic performance through lowering recovery times. There are several Olympic teams that use it regularly.
Okay.
And it will do all this without some of the drawbacks that regular over-the-counter pain meds have. The only real drawback is price, really. And I checked on Amazon what Wobenzyme was at. For the big 800 tablet bottle, it was around $115, but you could subscribe and save it down to like 98 or something, which was not bad.
That's great.
Yeah. And 800 tablets may sound like a lot, but you can go through 15 tablets a day or even 30 if you're injured. So you can go through those pretty quick.
Yeah, I know people who pop those things like Pez.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of all I have. Which ones in the store do you think are the most popular, or do you have the the best reports on what works?
Well, there's Dr. Wong's.
Yep, Zymessence. We mentioned that.
Yeah, Dr. Wong's Zymessence is one. And then, oh my goodness, my brain fog is strong.
Fibrenza? Is that one?
Fibrenza, huge. That's probably the number one seller, actually.
Really?
I think it's up there. Wobenzyme obviously is a big seller because Garden of Life, but I think Fibrenza is a real big deal there. The systemic enzymes are picking up steam, and I still have that nattokinase.
Yeah, that was terrible for you. Yeah. The way I like to use it is I have one of those big bottles in my house, and just like having a bottle of it's basically like having a bottle of Aleve or something, but instead of that, you have a big bottle of enzymes. So you use it as a painkiller if you need it. I rarely use it because I'm not in pain, but if I did need it, I could grab that instead of something that might chew up my stomach or cause GI problems or something.
Right. Now, is it better to take a systemic enzyme on a regular basis or take it sporadically, like you were suggesting, if you have pain, like you would an NSAID or
that's a
something
good
like
question.
that?
I didn't really find anything that said use it either way, but I know you can use it like an NSAID. You know, you
Right.
can, if something happens, you can pop 30 of those things and you'll be feeling all right in not too long of a time.
30 of them?
Yeah, Wobenzym, you can pop a handful
Really?
for sure.
Is that what they recommend when you're having a major...
No, that's what the rep for Garden of Life told me. You know, just take a whole bunch of them at once if you have an injury or something like that, and it works really well.
Yeah, but he sleeps in a snake pit, so we have to take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but I know so many people who have said so many good things about it that, I mean, systemic enzymes in general, I don't hear people coming back and going, no bueno. Most people are hooked, and then I'm going, why are these people spending $115 a bottle on this stuff? Because they work.
Yeah.
Now, for scar tissue, I know that they're pretty beneficial too, internal scar tissue.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who have had surgeries and different things that they take that for too, and they've seen pretty great success as far as reducing that scar tissue internally.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, there's a lot of good things.
There's a lot of upside, and the coolest thing is I didn't really have a section in this talk that was, and this is the bad side. This is to what you should watch out for.
I keep waiting for it, though.
Right? Yeah, there really isn't much with systemic enzymes. They're very benign. So it's really all upside. Like, everybody should have some.
Yes, unless you're taking like a high dose for the first time, like the nattokinase, that unfortunately scared me off of it a little bit because my whole body felt like Judgment Day. But I will go back and I do want to explore it. I think we should both do it and then compare our notes on.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I should mention is they will thin your blood out. So that could be a potential issue.
Here we go.
You know, they help with blood clots and stuff. And so they could thin your blood out too much if you're already on a blood thinner.
That's smart because a lot of people that are coming into the store too.
Yeah.
Dude, I love it. And these
Cool,
are
man.
so intriguing to me. And it seems like such an untapped.
Yeah, well,
thing
like I
for a lot of
said,
people.
they because they lower inflammation, they could theoretically be used in so many different things. However, just like that Gonzalez story, they're not a miracle.
Right.
I've definitely seen them sold as a miracle, like in the type 1 diabetes thing.
Right.
So, yeah.
Buyer beware.
Yep. Cool. Well, thank you, everybody. There'll be some links for Wobenzym on the website. If you want to help us out, you can click on them through us, and we'll get a little piece of anything you buy. That would be awesome. Thank you so much for listening. Go to quackspodcast.com if you want to check out anything else by us. We've got all the recommended products up there. We've got all the episodes, and yeah.
Dare a friend to listen to the podcast.
Yeah,
Get them involved so you can start a conversation with them too.
We're actually doing pretty good. We are growing. The podcast, amazingly, each week is getting more and more popular. So
That's the direction we want to be headed in.
right? All right. Well, thanks a lot, everybody. Appreciate you listening.
Good night, guys.